All right, y'all. Today's workshop and presentation is really going to be, you know, what is SMS marketing? How do you launch your first SMS campaign? And kind of leading up to it, a little bit of, some things as far as, how do you get people to opt in? What do you say? How do you target? A couple of things like that. So we're going to kind of walk through the steps of, and we're going to, not to insult anyone's intelligence. What we're going to kind of do here is kind of act like all of us have never seen SMS marketing before, ever, never used it, anything like that. We're just going to kind of build up from the basics of, what is SMS marketing down to, okay, we know the basics. How are we going to use that in order to create our first campaign? And then from there, how to create a system that can help us with, future campaigns and holding up that adherence. Because as we know, with anything, a lot of us, I'd probably say just about all of us are, in one way, shape, or form, business owners or those in a higher level position, that's supporting the business owners. We all know adherence is going to be one of the biggest, and consistency are like two of the biggest qualities in order to, to continue improving, period over period. So before we get started with this, I feel like I'm going to be preaching to the choir here. What is Chatavise? We're an automation platform, but we're geared towards helping, our clients when it comes to brand reputation, when it comes to getting your team involved and getting you more Google reviews, helping automate communication, helping you send things like marketing campaigns, track results, and truly attempt to be part of your back office when it comes to automating things in all nature, when it comes to communication, employee rewards, marketing, surveys, data from your clients, feedback, everything like that. So that's what our goals have been from essentially day one, and we continue to try to do our best at that. So what is SMS marketing? So SMS marketing is another marketing channel that allows you to engage your audience in slightly a different way than other marketing channels in which you may have direct communication, one-to-one communication with your audience. A couple to mention would be obviously email. I know I can imagine all of us have used email marketing or maybe just transactional email in one way, shape, or form in order to communicate directly with somebody or to send a message to a whole group of people. And then another channel would be what you do through your social media accounts when you're creating posts in order to garner attention and demand from those who are following you. SMS marketing is another channel that's built upon texting. It's built upon your recipients allowing you to send to them through the most personalized channel that they could possibly give you, which is direct access to their phone. It's essentially the second greatest level of access they can give you, next to being able to call them directly to promote promote your goods and services or, offers to them. So it's something that it's a very powerful channel, and it's something we definitely need to, keep in mind and treat with respect, and which we'll go through as well as far as, going through this process. Okay, let's talk about some quick stats. Everyone likes some stats as far as texting goes. We probably all heard these stats before. I'm here to reiterate it. And also, here's a website. So, here's a source to the website that that I pulled it from. Essentially, you can find this just about anywhere if you Google it. We can see SMS has an extremely high open rate compared to that of like an email. SMS has an open rate of 98%. So just about every single text message that's being sent is going to be opened by that end recipient for the most part. Another cool thing about SMS is that just about all of your text messages not only being open, but they're all being open within 3 minutes of being received. That is pretty crazy, especially when it comes to, people nowadays are extremely busy. We're juggling a lot of things to still be able to receive and interpret a message within 3 minutes of sending it out. That's pretty awesome. Next thing, SMS has a very, very high response rate. We'll talk a little bit about this as far as, SMS marketing versus email marketing, but, with SMS, at times you can get response rates, and we can consider a response not only those who text back, but maybe those as well who engage with you, like clicking a link or something like that you may send. Almost half. Now, obviously, that's going to depend on the type of message that you're sending and the audience that you're targeting. But you could find that almost up to half of people are going to engage with your message one way or another, whether it's through direct response or clicking a link or something like that. Also, what we found is most customers are going to want to receive offers via SMS. Now, let me put a caveat by that. Most customers who are loyal customers to that company are for sure going to want to receive an SMS. I know we've all probably received a SMS from a bunch of different companies trying to, whether it's like offering you like financing or something like that. If you signed up for something in the past and you kind of get followed by a bunch of texts that maybe you don't want to receive all the time, there are those who abuse it. But when it comes to those customers who are very loyal to their business that they use, most of them are going to want to receive offers. Also, too, y'all, we're going to end up kind of encapsulating this PowerPoint. We'll be able to send this out as well if you want to take a look at this link. To take a look at some other stats or some other cool information on there as well. So, if anyone has any comments as far as what they've done with email marketing, please feel free to post it in this messaging, this message channel of Zoom. But how does SMS marketing differ from email? Because I'm not going to sit here and say one is better than the other. I think they serve different purposes. They both have their strengths and weaknesses. We actually have a blog post. We have a blog post on this specifically. We kind of have a blog post as far as like SMS versus email versus, social media posting. It's on our website at chatavise.com. Email marketing, SMS marketing, which one's better? They serve some different purposes. They each have their own strengths. But when it comes to SMS marketing, the one thing about SMS is, while we have some very superior strengths, having that direct access to that person without filtering, without having to be behind a spam blocker that you may find with a lot of email providers like Gmail or Yahoo. I don't know. Anyone still use AOL? They probably have some sort of spam block. I can imagine they're still keeping up with the times. I think they still exist, but when it comes to SMS, you don't really have to worry about those so much. Our blocking comes in a different way as far as how SMS is. But one thing we have to keep in mind when it comes to SMS are that the messages need to be shorter. We've all seen, and I'm sorry, I'll be pausing at times as I'll see some people come in. I'll let them in. We've all probably received emails and sent emails that have very rich HTML content, pictures everywhere. We have our headers, our paragraph tags. Maybe some of y'all like mess with some HTML as you're doing it. Well, that's you don't get any of that in SMS. You essentially get text. You get text, and if you want to use MMS, you get a picture. Now, obviously, coming down the pipeline, we have RCS messaging protocols coming, and it's something that we're now beginning to research on our end to begin supporting in the future. So it's something to keep in mind. But as of this moment right now, when it comes to SMS, we want to keep our messages shorter for a couple of reasons. Character limits. When a regular SMS has 160 characters, MMS has a very large amount of characters. You can have 1,600 characters on an MMS message. But remember this: most of your recipients are not going to want to receive an email in a version of an SMS. We continue to do that, and we may end up going along the lines of email in the future with more spam blocking that's available. So something to keep in mind there. Because SMS is such a direct channel of communication, more direct than any other channel, the most personalized, we ideally do not want to use as much frequency with an email campaign. With email, we could probably send them multiple a week. SMS, we want to be a little more conservative, maybe twice a month, maybe 3 times a month. It truly depends on your business use case and the recipients of, your recipients, your subscribers, and what they want to hear from you exactly. But more or less, if I were to be generalized here, maybe a little bit less frequency because that hit is so much stronger. So, like I said before, no HTML rich content like an email. And the thing about SMS, though, that kind of trumps all those three, I just going to throw all the negatives out there, is that you have such a high open rate. You have such a high engagement rate that you will probably find you will not have to send as many SMS messages in order to garner this result because of this. So while more can be more doesn't necessarily mean better. It's just more and more, it's different. We can utilize email and SMS together. It doesn't have to be either or. You can use them in a strategy together. Check out that if you're more interested in this, check out that blog post that we have on our website. Okay, now that's out of the way. Let's 1 second. Before we start talking about, making your first SMS campaign, there's some questions we want to ask ourselves. What are my goals with SMS marketing? Who is my target audience? So essentially, who do you want? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to sell? Are you trying to offer services? Are you trying to promote something? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to inform? Are you trying to connect? Those are some things that we need to think about, before starting. Who is going to be the target audience? We think about that because we want to think of how do we best want them and promote for them in order to opt into this new channel. One of the things about SMS marketing is you can't just start sending a bunch of texts to phone numbers. There is a process that involves them giving you explicit consent, which we'll go over here later on, in order to opt in. So keep that in mind when you're kind of defining who are you trying to target with this. And of course, with that, how do I build my subscriber list? And we'll talk about some methods as far as how to build your subscriber list. Plus, we'll go in a future workshop, we'll go more into detail, not just how, you can build it yourself, but how with a little bit of help from a platform like Chatavise, you can, take some load off and help build it for you. What do you plan to offer? So kind of we talked about before, are you going to offer a service? Are you going to, give them motivational quotes? There's, obviously the possibilities are endless, but something to kind of keep in mind when you're creating this strategy. What do you want to do with the results? Because every campaign is going to generate a result. What do you want to do with that? Do you want to use it to continue targeting those who are interested even further? Do you want to use it to tweak your messaging in order to potentially pivot and go in a different direction? Or do you want to continue performing, the same kind of, campaign month over month as you continue to gain new subscribers and spread your message? And then, of course, how does SMS marketing fit into a long-term plan with your other marketing endeavors? I never want to say that there is one marketing channel that will make or break a business. They all play a part. They all play a major, they all together, they play a major part. So kind of think about how do you want SMS marketing to fit into your plan of other things. You want it to kind of be of the same themes. So think about how you're doing your social media, how you're doing your email. Think about SMS in that exact same way. Okay. Before our first campaign, this is part we kind of go over real quick. Build that subscriber list. You can't send a campaign to no one. And even worse, you can't send a campaign to a bunch of phone numbers who did not give you explicit consent. So, how do you get people to opt in? They can be given to you using specific keywords that you may hand out, of course, with a caveat of providing, some of the rules for that when they do, how many messages they're going to receive a month, the privacy policy link, messaging rates may apply, things like that. Website forms that are embedded, as long as they're compliant and have the proper explicit consent checkboxes that are needed. And one of the first ways to ever do it, handwritten forms. So if there have been in the past, if you ever received like a form that had like a manual checkbox on it, we may have all received it when we're at at a doctor's office that may have a checkbox, a physical checkbox saying I want to receive communication regarding promotions and stuff like that. You can collect it that way as well. So one thing to remember in this, though, they must be explicit consent. You must be able to point to where they opted in if anyone like the FCC were to ever ask. Okay, let's talk about creating our first SMS campaign. So there's a few things. There's essentially 3 steps to creating your SMS marketing campaign. And all 3 of these steps kind of feed into each other because I believe that these are the 3 these 3 areas, these 3 tiers, these 3 pillars that are going to these are 3 pillars that not only do you start with, but you can continue to heavily improve each one of these 2. It's kind of cool because let's say we're starting from 0, right? We have never sent an SMS marketing campaign before. We're essentially not really going to have much of anything on any of these 3. So each one of these pillars can be built up on its own and improved and measured and tracked. measurement tracks like the same thing. It can be tracked and improved. How about that? So let's talk about the first step here. We want to begin segmenting our audience. So we want to start learning about the audience that we have. Those who did opt in, why? Why did they opt in? What are they interested in? What gave them the sudden urge to want to send a keyword, fill out a form? What about it? So that's kind of really what it is. What is segmentation? It's the ability to really label your audience based on, transactions they've done with you before, or maybe certain behaviors or interests that you will be able to explicitly track. This can be done through different kind of lead forms that you make, or keywords that they text, things like that, or things that may happen in your own CRM that you'll be able to, tag automatically as far as what they've done, within your system. So right here, these are some of the examples of that. But how does segmentation help? It really helps when it comes to crafting your message. So this kind of builds upon the next pillar, which is like, what do you say? Because what do you say is important, but before you know what to say, you have to make sure you're targeting the right audience, because what you say is important in the message, but in my opinion, it's nowhere near as important as targeting that audience, the exact correct audience. You can make the most perfect message in the world for selling deodorant, but if everyone signed up to use for a cooking class, then it wouldn't have any context. So before even, before even talking about what you want to say, segmentation allows you to really help create a compelling message. If you do a better job, it's kind of like, with sales, like, a lot of the work is done with the prospecting. Labeling here and segmentation is no different. You put a lot of the work up front with doing a good job of labeling your audience, the less you'll have to worry so much about that compelling message. Or when you do worry about that compelling message, the farther reach that you'll be able to get doing that. So how do you segment your audience? Essentially, you're going to want, obviously you're going to want to use an SMS marketing platform that's going to help you with this, but usually their system is going to contain a series of tags or labels that will allow you to tag your audience depending on things. And really, it should be automatic. You shouldn't have to painfully go and tag manually each person. There should be some automation set in place so that you don't have to do so much legwork here. Okay, the next step here is crafting that message. So we have the first thing down. We have our audience segmented. We know exactly who we want to, send this message to. Now it's, what do we want to say in this message? Kind of like what I mentioned before, we want to keep things short. We want to keep it short. When it comes to email, you can use long form emails. It's the idea of people opting out. We've all seen it. Like, obviously, every email has unsubscribe options, but we've all seen it. Sometimes it's not the easiest to unsubscribe from an email. So I know me personally, maybe I'm the only one, but for me, sometimes I don't just unsubscribe. It takes me like a year to unsubscribe from something. I'll just continue to hit delete over and over and over again until I finally crack and be like, okay, where is this unsubscribe thing? Well, when it comes to, SMS, we are kind of required to put these, instructions to opt out in just about every automated message that we send, essentially in the form of, a text stop to opt out. So when we do that, we want to make sure that the message is not turning into a long form to increase the chances of that person getting annoyed and opting out. So not only do we have carrier limit restrictions when it comes to SMS with the character limits, we also just don't want people, our recipients, we got to think about them first. We got to put ourselves in their shoes. They don't want to receive a mountain of, a whole book in one message. Trust me, if you set up your SMS strategy to do this with consistency, you won't have to send that first campaign that has, 3 pages worth of text on it. Don't throw it all in one text message. We can schedule it out. We can think about things we want to say in the future. The goal is, let's keep them opted in. We don't want half the audience opting out. So little by little, you can throw your message out to them over time. And the cool thing is you can experiment with that too, as far as how, long or short your messages need to be in order to get the result that you desire. So You want to be clear and direct in your message. And this is kind of redundant because you want to be clear and direct in every single medium. SMS is a little more important because you don't have the beauty of having like images and rich HTML like content in there. So with that said, they're only going to be looking at text. So, think about that for a moment. When you're doing it, you want to be clear. And I put something in the CTA here, but sorry, I didn't mean to do that. CTA is defined a little bit further down. We want to personalize the message as much as we can. And really, there are two things we want to personalize that make it important. We want to add their name in it. Not only does it make people feel like the message is, is more for them. Like remember, it's not like email or a cold email where we're sending their first name. We never met them before, but we're sending their first name. Like these people gave you consent to text them. So they know that you know their name. So we want to use that. Also, we also want to use our name so that they know, that they remember who we are. Now, if you're sending multiple messages a week, like there obviously are going to be some use cases where you're going to send multiple campaigns a week. You don't have to define your name every single time, but you really want to do that in most of the messages that you're sending. You want to let them know who you are because they may forget, especially if they're receiving texts from, other companies, other family members and friends. This would just helps them remember, who you are in there. But personalization is a very strong thing. It actually helps when it comes to carrier filtering as well. There are times where our message without, personalization can raise a red flag for carriers to start looking deeper to think, okay, is this spam? And it's something that unfortunately at times they may have an automatic process on their side that flags messages that aren't personalized or slightly different. This gives us that ability to create that difference between the messages. Okay. Okay, we want to include a strong call to action. We want our messages to be short, we want them to be clear, and we want a call to action. Otherwise, why are we sending a text message? So whatever your CTA is, we go back to, what is your goal with SMS marketing? Um, get that CTA. We have an example here, reply now to take advantage of this offer. Those who may have received an SMS campaign from us, yesterday and, a little bit from, maybe from previous times, you may receive, or you may have received something where I say like, hey, text recording to receive a recording of this webinar. That is our CTA in here. But whether you are going to want them to send a response back or click a link, make sure to be explicit in that. If it's a link, it's funny and I personally made a lot of these mistakes in the beginning with our first clients back in the day, not with marketing SMS, but with review invites, is that we used to just send a link to leave a review on Google, but we didn't tell them to click it. Because you think like, oh yeah, wait, like it said, please leave us a review on Google and show a link. And it's like, well, no one was really clicking it. And we're like, why? Why is no one clicking this link? So we were like, after a little bit of research, and like, hey, wait a minute, let's ask them to click the link. That was it. They just needed to know. It's like because everyone, these links, not everyone wants to click things on their phone. That's the last. It's very personal. The last thing you want is some sort of malware being installed or something. Some sort of malware attack happening because you click a link that you don't know. This lets them know what the link is for. So in that call to action, present that, but use the same idea of being clear and concise and direct in there too. Also, create some urgency. The thing about SMS that's very powerful over something like email or social media posts is that you have direct access to their phone, but you also you can't be making multiple texts a day like a social media post. So get some urgency in there. Think about what you're offering. Think about if there's an expiration to what you're offering. Use that to your advantage. Use those things. So we have this next iteration, reply now within the next 24 hours to claim this offer. You can actually, if you want, if you have a texting software already or using us, experiment. Use a call to action without urgency, then use it with urgency, see what happens. You'll see a lot of people, including myself, like a deadline. So, put that deadline in there and it puts a little bit of oomph behind that call to action that you're giving. Next thing, we want to use trackable short links. So you can send a link to, your website, which is great. That's great. The most important thing is that they get the link. That's what's most important. But the second most important thing is we want to track how many people are clicking the link. So using those, using a trackable short link helps when it comes to this. Now, one thing to be wary about, and this is not a bash against Bitly, a company like Bitly, these link shortener companies. Unfortunately, what we have found in our own trials and tribulations are that carriers, unfortunately, will block messages that may contain some of these short link shortener companies. We have a link shortener service ourselves within our own platform that has been approved by carriers to be able to be sent via SMS. But we have found, unfortunately, even with some of our own clients that were using Bitly before, when they send it, they get blocked. Those messages get blocked. For some reason, right now, carriers are not liking link shorteners. Now, obviously, link shorteners are great. I love Bit. I used to use Bitly all the time before we created our own, our own version. So something to think about if you are use something that you can track, but make sure it's something that's not being blocked by carriers. Also, just a little bit of a plug for us. When it comes to us, you can at least track who clicked it. So not only how many times that link's being clicked, but who's clicking that link. So you can drill it and see who has more interest, in your product, service, offering, whatever you're promoting. Last thing, keep compliance in mind. Kind of like I mentioned before, we always want to include the opt-out instructions. Usually it's just reply stop to opt out. Now, when it comes to using a texting service, it's usually that's part's going to be done for you, or should I rephrase it? It should be done for you. If it's not, if you're doing it yourself, I'd say maybe go look for something different. That's something that Chatavise has done from day one is provide that provide those opt-out instructions, because for us compliance is extremely important. That's the last thing we want are problems with the FCC. Lastly, too, when we keep compliance in mind, only send to recipients who've given you explicit consent. We don't want to send a bunch of messages to those from a phone number list that we bought. That's also spelling out major trouble. And on my next slide, we'll kind of detail a little bit of what goes on there. So carriers are always watching. This is just a couple of things as an outline of what you cannot send. We have we have the top 5 things here as far as shaft, sex, hate, alcohol, firearms, tobacco. Those are things that are a huge no-no. Once you send that, you could potentially get your brand removed from being able to text, which is a very arduous process to be able to, unfortunately, be able to restore. Your high risk services when it comes to like selling loan, trying to get, funding for a business in a promotional way, those also you may have to, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through in order to be able to send messages like that. But for the most part, we can see when it comes to like people trying to collect debt, promote crypto stuff or their own investment platforms, that's a big no-no as well. Drugs, considering cannabis, CBD stuff, gray area kind of stuff. That stuff, unfortunately, unfortunately, however you think, is not allowed to be texted as well. That's also a big no-no. And then misleading marketing messages, which would, if I had to guess, so this one was a little bit new to me, but if I had to guess, it may be due to those who may file a complaint with the FCC stating that, what you're promoting is not exactly what you're selling. And I can imagine it has to be very big in order for that to be something huge, but something to keep in mind, whatever you are promoting, just honor it and you won't have to worry about that. And then remember, I think this is like the 5th time I've said it, explicit consent from your recipients. Make sure they have either texted a keyword, filled out a compliant lead form, or have handwritten consent that you have stored the live copy and a copy, the live signature and a copy of it somewhere. So in case, because you can see here, you can get fined if someone reports to the FCC sending them a message that they did not opt into explicitly, and you're not outside of that transactional window. There is a certain gray area when it comes to servicing someone for an order that they purchased from you. When it comes to only giving them updates about that order, that more or less can be implicit consent. If only you talk about the order and nothing else. But as soon as you start to venture out of it, aka SMS marketing, 100%, that's 100% promotional. If you don't have this, you will be fined $500 per message that you send. And that may not be a big deal if you get one complaint, but if that person who has one complaint decides to go to a class action lawyer who then decides to find others who receive messages from you, you could be in a world of trouble. but you will be okay if you can prove that you've received explicit consent from your subscribers, your recipients. Okay. Next two slides, I'm going to give you an example of what a good message looks like and then what a bad message looks like. So here's a good one. I'll just read, even though I know y'all can read. I'm going to read it as well. Um, Hi, John. This is Greater Good Landscaping. Spring is here, and it's time to start thinking about lawn care. Not too exciting? Schedule a free estimate with us this weekend and get 50% off your first month. Click the link below to schedule. So, what have we done here? What makes up a good message? One, we used the recipient's name. Two, we used our name, the business name. Three, we made a clear, concise, and also maybe potentially exciting message. That's up to interpretation, but exciting message, an attempt to make an exciting message. We also then created a strong call to action, 50% off of your estimate with urgency, this weekend. Finally, in that call to action, we gave them instructions. Click the link below to schedule. So now they know, okay, I know this company, I opted in and they're giving me a link. I'm going to click it because I trust them. They told me to click it. I'm going to click it and I don't want to worry. I do not want to worry about, lawn maintenance this summer. So something there to think about as well. Okay. Here's one that here's one that may potentially get blocked by carriers because it may be considered spam. Hey, it's me. We have so much new inventory in stock. Time to get rid of the old stuff with a link. What is I'm not sure what this may be. They we don't know that this person is. I don't know if this is addressed to me. I don't know who's sending it to me. This is a new phone. I don't know who this is. Like, what does this mean to have new inventory? And what's the sketchy link? What's the sketchy tracking link look like that's down here? Because obviously it's not directly their website. It's a link shortener that goes to their website. So this is an example of what not to send, on here. Okay, before we go to step 3, I'm going to see if we have any questions. Oh, Ron, let's see, you've been answering some of the questions in here. Yes, and yes, we'll be able. We'll send this PowerPoint in a little bit of a prettier format. But yeah, we'll send this along with a recording of the webinar as well when we're finished later on this week. And let's see, makes sense why clients never responded or completely, or completed the review. Yes, if people never responded or clicked the link at times, even me myself, I'm weary when it comes to clicking a link that I receive, unless I'm told what it's for and they tell me to do it. It helps. Nowadays, it seems like when someone sends a review invite link, it's more or less it makes sense now to click it. But when you're receiving something for the first time, everyone may not think like I do, obviously, and they may not click it. So a couple of these things may not guarantee a Google review. What it can do at least is mitigate the chances of them not clicking it. It increases the odds.
Rob, let me add a little piece to that short link. So with Bitly, anyone can get a Bitly link and use it for anything. Where let's say a platform like ours or other people that have a text component to it, for the most part, anyone that's using those short links, they're pre-approved. They're already approved businesses with the carriers. So you have a higher likelihood of not being filtered because not everyone is running around with the Chatavise short link, for example. It's just that those businesses that already went through the approval process.
Right. That's a great point, Ron. Yes, that makes perfect sense. Yes. It's very important. The carriers are very they're very cautious about letting when it comes to approving businesses. They want to make sure that no one's going to take advantage of spamming people with via text message. Okay, step 3, time. Just the time of when you send it. Honestly, I'd say of all the 3 pillars, in my opinion, this one is not like the most important. It's probably the least important one because it's SMS. Email, we know we're fighting 10,000 other emails. SMS, we don't have anywhere near as competition for now, at least. So a couple of things to keep in mind, though. Depending on the state that you live in, they may have different rules on when you send. Just make sure to send between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. Don't send it at midnight. Don't do that. Because if people start to opt out at midnight, carriers may not like that. And they may block you because you're sending it outside of the times of what's of the state that you're in or just in general. So try to just stick between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. when you're creating a campaign. And then you can experiment from here. I can't say one time is better than the other. To be honest, I'm still trying to figure that out myself. We're all still trying to learn that piece of it, of what time's better, and it can change. But what we do know is when it comes to SMS, it's not a big of a factor because everyone reads their text messages a lot quicker than they do email. So this makes it a little bit more straightforward and not so much we have to think about this like we do when it comes to like especially when it comes to an email or my God, a social media post. So those three things in mind, you have your first text messaging campaign that you sent out with those three things. Like that's probably going to be that's the big thing, right? Like you did it. That's your one message. Like let's do a couple other things now because that's honestly we think it's the end, but it's really just the beginning. So what are we going to track? Responses, clicks, opt-outs, delivery. So we want to make sure if we require a response that's high. If we have a link, we want to make sure it's getting clicked. We don't want to make sure people are opting out. And we want to make sure we have good phone numbers, which we should if people give explicit consent via texting a keyword. And make sure we're not being filtered by carriers for one reason or another. So interpreting the results. So if you have a high opt-out, you may not have had much frequency in your communication. The farther you go without communicating, people are going to tend to lose interest or forget about you. And they may just, it's so easy to opt out. They just text stop and that's it. Also, too, your message, we think about, segmentation. Your message may not fit their purpose. So they're opting out. If they opted in for one reason and you're texting them about another, they may not be interested. So high carrier filtering, we have an article that we have for best practices. I'm gonna make a note to include that in this so that you can click on it. And then, make sure you follow the rules for personalizing the message. So you have a high carrier filter rate. Think about best practice. Make sure you're not sending illegal stuff. Make sure you're personalizing the messages as well. You have a low response rate. Analyze your messaging. Did you make sure to include a clear CTA of exactly what you wanted them to do? If you think so, maybe get a second opinion. And then low click rate, same thing. Look at the messaging. Was it clear with exactly what you wanted to do? Usually the messaging is going to be it. Obviously, as well, look at your segmentation. If you have a high opt-out rate and a low click rate, then you may see, okay, it's not what I sent isn't really exactly with a reason, a purpose for those who signed up. So a couple things. While this isn't necessarily marketing per se, you can actually take actions on the results. You can almost use these results as a sales tool a little bit. So when it comes to who is responding, who's clicking, you can go further and potentially even message them one-on-one afterwards. If you see that they're clicking something a lot, or if they have a lot of interest, you can actually begin, or you can place them in another campaign. Now that's something very Chatavise specific that you can actually take those who click a link, tag them, and that can throw into another campaign that you send out in the future. So you can kind of automate this side of it. So while our goal obviously is to nurture the subscriber base, we can also use it as a sales tool, if that fits your goals for SMS marketing. So we want to, prepare this for the future. This first campaign will be the worst campaign that you ever sent. It'll be I promise you it's going to be. Well, actually, I can't promise you. The first probably 5 will be the worst ones you ever sent. That's not the goal isn't to knock it out of the park in the first go. The goal is to get some points on the board so you can begin to get the data. What's most important here is getting the data back because that anyone can send a text campaign, but those who have success with it refine their strategy depending on the results that they obtain with it. So that one campaign is not going to make, if you do it and nothing happens, you're like, oh, it doesn't work for me, right? SMS marketing doesn't work. Hold on before you start, thinking about, abandoning, jumping ship and abandoning it. Remember that first campaign will be your worst campaign. Think about the results, think of our lack of results, refine your messaging, see if you can do a better job with segmenting your audience that you have too. It's not the end all be all. They all didn't opt out. Or maybe none opted out. Honestly, it's a success. If none of them opted out, you still have an audience to talk to. You still have you're still in the game, very much so, and for a very long time. It's not over until everyone opts out. So just keep that in mind. Continue to continue to do it. So the most important thing is consistency. So make sure when you continue the strategy in mind, like you want to be consistent. If you told them you're going to send them 2 messages a month, then do it. If it's one, then do it. Whatever you said you're going to do it because like, if you begin to skip things, your opt out odds are going to increase greatly because they don't really know who you are anymore. So remember, when you start this, try to be consistent as possible with it. So couple things as well. How often you think that they'll want to hear from you. Keep that in mind too. If you're finding your opt-out rates are high and you're sending them too much, obviously there's a thing is too much messaging. So think about your use case and think about don't think about how many you want to send. If it's up to us, we probably want to send one every day. Think about what they want to hear from you. Why do they want to hear from you? What do you want to gain by doing this? And what do they want to gain from subscribing to you? So basically, the cycle is this: you send, you track, you analyze the results, you optimize your strategy, and then you do it again. Just like any other marketing strategy, as we're continuing to learn ourselves. Nothing is good on the first time. Everything is always, you're going to look back and be like, that was the worst. That was the worst thing. Okay. Just a little real world result that's in here from one of our clients, Martha Razzo from XPS. Accelerator Business Summit. She actually created a text campaign and was able to receive almost $2,000 in revenue from that one campaign, even beating her Facebook digital ads that she ran. So now, like I said, this is not some sort of gimmick to be like, oh, SMS is better. Martha has been with us for a couple of years and has been using SMS marketing now for about a year, a little over a year. And she has refined her strategy, improved it, taken these things that we're kind of talking about here, and she has put it into action herself. And she is continuing to still improve with every campaign that she does. She is very results driven, data driven, a PhD in data science, very results driven. It's very important to her that the result is there. So she continues to refine the strategy. So like I said, it's not complex to do this. It isn't easy, but it's not complex. It's hard, but if you stay consistent, you use the right tools, it can help kind of take some of that burden off of you. So a little bit of a bonus, and I'm sorry we're about a minute over time. A little of a bonus, automating your campaigns. You don't have to just send this one blast campaign out. Um, you can also have the idea of being able to sell someone automatically on as soon as they subscribe to you if you set up the correct series and sequences of messaging. This is something that Chatavise has specifically. We call it our workflows, but it's the ability to send messaging automatically to someone as soon as they subscribe to where you may not have to worry about it. You set up, if you have one thing you're going to sell and that's it, you can set up a series of 7 text messages that are sent out over the next 3 months. And you can just sit back as people subscribe. You don't have to worry about what am I going to send. That can be whenever you want, really. But the insurance policy is underneath having this series of messages that are being sent out. So you can potentially automate your campaigns with the right texting tool, which, could be us, definitely. So that's really it here. What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to show you, for anyone who wants to stay on, I'm just going to show you real quick what campaigns look like in our system. And then we can just you can open the floor to questions and things like that. So I'm going to throw this over here. And we have our own campaigns feature. Before looking at anything, you can actually see, I'd say before everyone's probably going to see this marketing tab. If you're in Chatavise, you have your Chatavise account, you're going to see this marketing tab. First thing, go to subscribers, see if you have any. You may be surprised. You may actually have some subscribers. Our right now we have opt-ins on like review invites, soon to be surveys, not yet. Sorry, Ron. Soon to be surveys. We have lead forms that you may have on your website, like a web chat widget and things like that. You may have some subscribers and you may not even know it because unfortunately this has been one of the best kept secrets of the platform, is this whole little marketing side that we have been building. So kind of check here and see like, okay, I have some subscribers. Wow, I almost have 500. Where did that come from? From here, you can go to here in order to create a campaign for this. And kind of like what we talked about, you can create a campaign that's promotional, that you can select your recipients based on tags that you have. Now, unfortunately, I'm in a development environment, so I don't have any tags. So unfortunately, I can't showcase that power. Probably something I should have thought about. But as you're tagging people when they fill out lead forms and things like that, you can actually begin to segment and divide and filter your audience based on those tags. Or if you want to exclude tags, you can do that as well. You can exclude certain members. And if you have multiple businesses under Chatavise, multiple locations, franchises, things like that, you can segment based on that as well. Here, you can type your message. If you need some help, you can use Ask Kelly to help craft your message. Kelly understands that this is an SMS campaign, so it's not going to include like a whole bunch of emojis unless you tell it to. It's going to try to keep it short and concise. You kind of just type your message. You can click this button, type your message in here, and it'll come up with what you want to say, and then you can use our variables here, our message variables, in order to replace things like first name, last name to have personalization. And then you can schedule when to send it. And then, of course, you can test the campaign on yourself before you send it. Now, that's as far as sending it. If you want to track the results of a campaign, you can view the campaign. So, for example, this one was a 500 person, campaign, recipient campaign. You can see one, how many people you send it to, two, credits, something we didn't really go into. This is Chatavise specific now. So Chatavise does have, an amount that we charge per credit that you use for things like, marketing campaigns. It's on our website under pricing. Um, Depending on the plan that you're in, that could vary, but it can vary from, starting at 4 cents, and depending on the higher plans up you go, the much cheaper that amount per message credit goes. But this will kind of let you know how many credits did you use. Every plan also comes with a set amount of, free credits per month that you have allotted. But after that, every credit has a cost tied to it specifically. But from here, you can see some cool things like, is it almost done? You can see your campaign. You can actually see it in live as you're sending it. You can refresh the results as it's going through and completing the campaign. You can see the delivery rate. You can see if there were any opt-outs, if anyone responded. If you sent a link, so for example, we did send a link in this mock campaign, we can see how many clicks that link got, how many clicks it received. And within this, we can actually drill down and see who clicked it. So this is where it's kind of cool because you can use this to determine, okay, who can I now message one-on-one because they clicked it, or who can I now throw into a workflow, for example. I'm just going to create a quick little link clicked workflow. Well, this is a quick example of just what you can do here. So the idea of someone, clicking this link in the in this campaign here, the idea of someone clicking it, you can actually set up a workflow that will auto tag them as well. So we know who clicks. The power of Chatavise is that we know who clicks the link. So is it something we want to text them as soon as they click a link? No, that's creepy, right? That's we don't want them to know that we're tracking every little thing that they do. We don't we could play a little more smooth than that. But what we can do is if they do click a link like this, we can create a workflow like this that tags them. So we know like, oh, this specific person, click this link. Now they're tagged as this. So when it comes to the future campaigns that we create, now we can create a new campaign and say, okay, we want all those who are tagged as this. I'm going to send you a message, to these people. We know already that they have interest because they clicked the link. We know that. So that's the one example. That's one example there as far as what our campaigns to do. Also, as well, we can also put them in what we call a dynamic campaign. So you'll be able to, and yeah, unfortunately, this part is, oh, good. We're back. Okay. You can put them in a dynamic campaign. So you can also create campaigns based on tag activity of that person. So you can create a campaign like 3 weeks from now, and anyone who clicks that link, it's auto tag like that. They're automatically included in the campaign that you set for the future. Like I said, it's a lot, but we have videos and things that, when you're in the app, you can learn how to do those things just by using these buttons here, learn how to, and it'll go more into detail. So that's it for me. I appreciate, y'all's time. I appreciate y'all sticking around. I appreciate y'all sticking around to hear that. Um, I'm going to keep it open for like, 5 minutes. Anyone have any questions at all? Please feel free. Post it here. Unmute yourself. Anything you want. It is open mic for anyone that has any questions, suggestions, maybe relating to this or maybe not this at all. So just please, anyone, we'll kind of just hang out here. But anyone else, free to go. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much, y'all. Also, thank y'all for giving us the opportunity to be your texting app or working with us if you are a client. We really appreciate it, and we always appreciate the opportunity you give us to make us a better system as well.
We do have a question. Sandra asked, will we have support in creating the campaign, or is there a video to follow? So Sandra, we actually have a video on both platforms, meaning the mobile app and the web app, which is what Rob is showing here. So you can send out text campaigns using both applications. So mobile and web app, we have videos for both. And let me see if there's another one that came in. Thank you, Kim, for the comment. We're gonna love doing these more. So we're building a
Yeah.
habit, right? Two a month, two a month.